All right, everybody. Well, we are going to get rocking and rolling right after that amazing power session that Chase put in there on Canva and infographics. But you are going to love, we've got a new presentation this morning. So you guys are like, oh, I've heard Liz speak before. Maybe you have heard our next speaker speak a little bit. But she actually tweaked up a presentation, you just tell me, added some great stuff to that you guys are absolutely going to love. And as usual, we're going to blow your mind this morning. Our next speaker is just an absolutely expert. And I actually would say she's probably the best person in the industry to tackle what she's talking about today. She just does an amazing job simplifying things and breaking it down for new investors to understand it, where it's basically, I won't say it's on a kindergarten level, but definitely on a fourth grade level or less for you. She is the principal owner of the owner of TapeTech.com and NoteInvestingClub.com. She's been an active investor for going on almost, well, an active investor for 10 years, but a note investor, I think, going on about 8 or 9 now. The one, the only Liz Broomer-Smith. So, Liz, we are glad to have you this morning. Woo! Going to Orlando on a Saturday. You are actually, it's your day off. I mean, you're not teaching because you have to. You're teaching because you actually have a passion for helping out your kids right now. Is that correct?
Correct.
So that's exciting stuff. But you're here, you got in the house in the morning by yourself, knocking some stuff out. And I am going to just shut down my camera, and I'll jump in when people ask questions that are relevant for what you do. But you just take it away, girl. You know what you're doing. You're rock star. Awesome stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. So I'm not sure. There we go. I'm going to make it so you can see me. Can everyone see me? Hopefully. In a second, I'm going to screen share with you guys my presentation. Most of it is going to be through a PowerPoint, but I just wanted to kind of give you an introduction to my actual face before I started. I think it's nice to get to see people face to face. And thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday. I know a lot of people like to do things on the weekend. It's kind of like their escape, especially when you're still in your 9 to 5. So the fact that you're here is awesome. You should be proud of yourself for taking the time to show up and hopefully take action with some of the stuff you're going to learn today. So I'm going to get ready to screen share now. And let's start. All right, so I am Liz Broomer-Smith. I am the owner, as you said, of NoteInvestingClub.com and TapeTech.com. And I'm going to be focusing today on teaching you about automating your due diligence. So I've seen some of the people's names that have attended the on Basecamp. I've seen some of you have come to Scott's classes before. You've been on his Monday night calls. Some of you even went to his virtual note buying for dummies, so you may have seen me present. Today is going to be a little bit different than what I normally talk about. I normally actually walk you through the due diligence process, but today, since it's only an hour, it's a little bit more of a limited time space. So I'm not going to focus so much on teaching you what due diligence looks like, but how I have learned to outsource that process to virtual assistants to help me free up time. So, getting to know me a little bit, I obviously
trying to show your PowerPoint you're trying to show. Is that
yes?
correct?
Is it not showing up?
No, you got to go and share your entire screen versus just the PowerPoint. Share your entire screen.
Oh, okay. I pushed share. Okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
All right. Here we go. Can we see it now?
Yeah, now just maximize your PowerPoint.
Yep.
There you go.
Okay.
Perfect.
Woohoo! Sorry, guys.
You're good.
Okay, so obviously this is me, Liz Broomer-Smith. As I mentioned, Note Investing Club and TapeTech.com are going to be the 2 websites you'll see me kind of focus on today, and it's how I've outsourced my due diligence process to virtual assistants. I'm also an active note investor. My company is Seasoned Funding LLC. I am the principal for that. I focus on acquiring non-performing first lien residential properties throughout the nation. We do have a large portfolio that we just keep for ourselves, that we keep as workouts. We are privately funded, so we pretty much do everything that Scott teaches. We learned from him. And Scott, I love that you told me 8 or 9 years. I wish. But I actually have only started investing since I learned about investing in 2012 and didn't really start taking action until 2013. So I've only really been active in this space for about 3 years, going on 4.
You're a rock star. It seems longer because you're just closing so many deals.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it when you're motivated. So everything that you can learn from him and that you'll learn from him and others during these events, if you apply it, I promise you can see success 3 years later. And I'm staying at my job because I want to, not because I have to. I am a kindergarten teacher by day, and like I said, note investor by night. So investing in notes can be a part-time job. It does not have to be something that you do full-time to see success. I mean, we have assets in over 9 states. We have a portfolio of at least 20 assets currently, and obviously, you know, sometimes we sell, sometimes we buy more. So our portfolio is constantly growing and changing, and it's definitely something that you can manage with a day job.
You just bought 3 this week too, you were telling me, right?
I just bought 3 this week, correct. Yep, 3 this week. I bought 1 2 weeks ago. So it's totally doable, none of our own money involved, and it's super awesome. So when I first started off, I kind of had to learn about due diligence the hard way. So due diligence is an audit or investigation of a potential investment to confirm all material facts in regards to the sale, especially of real estate. So that includes reviewing all financial records or anything else deemed material to the purchase. So generally, due diligence refers to the care a responsible person should take before entering into the agreement or transaction with another party. That is the only slide I'm going to read verbatim, and I just wanted you to understand what due diligence is as a whole. That's done for businesses. It's done for any avenue of real estate. It is the most important part, I feel, of note investing. If you don't do what a reasonable person should do before entering into agreement and it turns out poorly, that's because you didn't do your due diligence properly. If you do your due diligence correct, you won't buy an asset at the wrong price. You won't buy the asset knowing there's surprises coming up. If you do your due diligence, you'll be good in your deal. It either makes or breaks it. So that's due diligence as a whole in relationship to business, real estate, whatever it may be. Now I'm going to talk about what due diligence looks like with notes. So the first thing you're going to look at is property condition. That's actually taking a look at the Google Street View. And we like this because if you just copy and paste the address into Google, most of the time, if it's not a super rural area, you're going to get a picture of the property. So this is one I was just looking at the other day. And as you can see right here in the corner of this picture, it has August 26th, 2016. That means that this picture was just from, 3 months ago, 2 months ago? If it looks like it's in good condition now, it's telling me, you know, what I can expect with this property, at least from the exterior. Now, let's say it's a picture from 2011 and its roof has a tarp on it and the window's broken in and there's weeds growing inside of the property. That's probably telling me it's going to look like that, if not worse. So the Google Street Views kind of gives you an upfront idea of what your property condition is. All right. Next, we look at the crime in the neighborhood. This is important for us because we obviously don't want to be in a neighborhood that no one wants to live in. You don't want to have a lot of gang violence, drugs, crime, things like that. You also don't want to be in a neighborhood that has something that would be to a negative for a sales factor. Like maybe it's on a super busy street, or maybe it's across from a sewage treatment plant. You never know. So you just like to take a look again through the Google image on the street view. You can take a look around the neighborhood. That'll let you know if there's anything negative directly on the street. And then for the crime, we actually like to use Trulia. So there's a heat map on Trulia that you can look at that tells you based on the color. Obviously, you can see less safe is red and the safer it is the green. And to the left, you can actually see each type of crime. So this one's a medium, I would say a middle risk crime. There are robberies, vandalisms, weapons. Okay, it's a little pretty bad. Burglary, robbery. So to me, this is a medium to high crime neighborhood. I'd want to look more into the crime rate to see if it's actually like a gangbanger neighborhood. I wouldn't want to be in something like that. But I love to look at this just for a quick shot at what I'm looking at for my crime. So the next thing you're going to want to look at, I went too fast, property information. That's actually looking at the property appraiser's website. You can look at the bedroom, the bathroom count, the building type, the square feet, the year built. So if you don't want anything that's less than a 3.2, or if you don't want an old wood frame home from the 1900s, this is going to be the information for you so that you can know that you're comfortable moving forward with the size of the home, the type of the home, things like that. And then next, we like the current market value. I would say this is the most important piece of your due diligence. You have to know what it's worth as is. You heard, I believe someone spoke about BPOs, just giving price valuations on NoteCamp so far. If not, I think someone is speaking in the lineup I saw. But for our current market value right now, we're not ordering a BPO. We're not calling a realtor and doing a drive-by or having them give you a CMA. What we're doing right now is just coming up with our own value. We don't like to use any of those estimates like the Zillow estimate or the Trulia estimate. Sometimes realestate.com gives you estimates, but we don't like to use those just because they pretty much populate all of the sold properties within a 2-mile radius. And they just say, okay, these are comps. And a lot of the time,
really important there, Liz, and I don't want to interrupt you, but it's just, you said as is, which is the most important thing. So many people coming over from the fix and flip side, you know, the REO side, they look at ARV and they price their thing completely wrong off of ARV because it's a total different formula for doing it. And so you're making a very good point here. Yes, don't trust BPOs. You really need to have eyes on the ground looking at it as this. I want to come back. If you guys did not catch that, that's probably one of the most biggest points where we see people goof up on. They overpay for an asset because they think they're going to get it at a discount off of ARV versus as is.
Yeah. And if you want to renovate, if that's one of your strategies, awesome. Know the ARV and keep that into consideration for your budgeting for the rehab, but you should still be basing it off of its as is, even if you could rehab it and have that potential to sell. Always do it off the as is. So the way that we come up with our current market value is we like to use Zillow, but we don't use that estimate like I mentioned. Do not use the estimate. It's totally whack. Excuse my 90s reference. So this map is at the bottom of Zillow. If you scroll all the way down, it's going to give you this neighborhood map. And all of those dots are actual clickable links. So if it's yellow, it's been sold. If it's red, it is for sale. Blue are pre-foreclosures. And then the purple is actually for rents. So I can get a pretty good snapshot right now just looking at this map of what I could rent it for, what my competition is on the market currently, and the actual comps that are really going to give me my value for what I can sell it for. So I like to just click around and take a look at the properties that I think are the most comparable. Remember, you want to keep in mind the bedroom and bathroom size, the square feet, the type of home. If it's in poor condition or an okay condition, it doesn't look great. Only find comps that look the same. You don't want to find a comp that's rehabbed. It's not a comp, okay? Unless you're going to rehab it, that's not a comp. So just remember to find things that are similar or like to your property. And then we actually find 3 comps and we just take the average of that, and that's how we come up with our value. Later, we will always verify that with either a broker price opinion, which is a BPO, or we'll actually have a realtor get their boots on the ground, go take a look at the property, and then give us their valuation based on their comps. So this is just the preliminary portion. We're just taking a look and coming up with our own value. This is not the end of this process, okay? So once we find our valuation, we move on to identifying the annual and unpaid taxes. Now, taxes are super important because almost every time, it's pretty rare not to find. If it is vacant, most of the time, even if it's occupied, you're gonna have some unpaid taxes. Sometimes you won't. It could be that the bank might be paying it or the borrowers are paying it because they really do want to stay. But most of the time, there's at least a few hundred, if not a few thousand in unpaid taxes. And you want to know this because it's going to obviously be affected or affect your cost basis for this note. If you have $5,000 in unpaid taxes, you need to know that.
Liz, can you do a favor for me real fast?
Sure.
Can you check, because I think when you're talking, your slides go blank because your microphone, Google Hangouts picking up your microphone. Can you make sure, and let's do this. Let's go back to your settings and let's just share the entire screen again.
Okay.
Okay, and then share, it should be the very first, because it'll be like 6 options, the very top left one, share entire screen.
Yep.
Okay, and then let's reopen up your PowerPoint again. I go full screen with that.
I went to, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Can we see it now?
Yeah, no, we see it. We see it. It's just I think we selected the wrong thing when we selected, so it should be good now.
Okay. All right. So we were at the identify annual and unpaid taxes. So we actually like to look at what's owed and what the annual tax rate is, because think about it, if you're going to be holding this for a year as a foreclosure, you're going to be responsible for those taxes as they come due for the next year. So not only are you responsible for the back taxes, here's an example. It shows you 2014, 2015 is owed. Not only are you responsible for paying that, but you would also be responsible for paying next year's taxes, which typically are, more or less similar to the rate they were this year. So we just like to use this current year's rate and just estimate for what it would be next year. So you're going to find that information, and then you're going to search for liens or judgments in public records. This is also really important because this will tell you if there's a second mortgage involved with the note, if there's possibly an IRS lien or a county or city, possibly a tax lien. It'll tell you anything that might possibly encumber the property and be a potential risk for you as you try to come up with an exit strategy. Most of the time, things can be handled in foreclosure. Normally, foreclosure wipes most things. There are certain liens or judgments that are not wiped, such as a HOA lien. There's something called the Safe Harbor Act in some states where you have to pay a certain percentage. You can negotiate that down, but typically those aren't wiped away. Also, IRS liens, they may not attach to your property, but sometimes it could have a potential risk. So I always suggest just talking to an attorney and finding out, because every state is different, every county is different. So I would always suggest just talking to an attorney if you see something that you feel uncomfortable about, or you're not sure if that will affect you. Ask. I know Alex from Pro Title always says if you have a question about the report, ask them. They're happy to explain further. And I use Pro Title for all of my O&Es and my searches. So knowing the liens or judgments up front, if you know it's something that's a big problem, like maybe there's a judgment for $10,000 from the county for not taking care of the property, that's going to outlive your foreclosure. You want to know that. So I wouldn't even bother bidding on that property unless I could get it at a deep enough discount. So I like to search for the liens and judgments up front just because it tells me if I even want to put a bid in or not. And then if I do like it, okay, like maybe I don't find any liens or judgments, I put a bid in and it gets accepted, then I'd pull my O&E. So this is like all of the stuff you do before you order all your formal stuff. Here's an example of looking in the public records. I'm actually see that there's a lien on this property and there's a judgment. So these are things that could possibly be risk for me. And you can even see here the grantor is the U.S. Internal Revenue, so that's the IRS. So that could affect me. All right. The last thing you're going to search is bankruptcy. We use pacer.gov. It is a subscription website, so you have to either go online and then sign up that way, or you can sign up online. They send you your information via the mail. You do have to put a credit card on file either by mail or online, and it's a pretty minimal fee. I think it's 10 cents per view per page. So if there's 10 pages, it's 10 cents times 10. You're going to pay $1. So it's not much. But if you exceed, I think it's $100 per quarter, you have to exceed a certain amount, they bill you. If you're under a certain amount, they don't even bill you. So like the first year I was doing notes, I never got a bill from Pacer. Now that we're purchasing more and more assets, I am starting to see bills from Pacer, but it's pretty nominal. But you can actually search in Pacer's records and you can see if anyone's in active bankruptcy, if they were previously in a bankruptcy. You can see what type of bankruptcy. It gives you all of their records and documents relating to it if it is active. And bankruptcy does have a role in our outcome. So if you're planning on foreclosing on this property and they're in bankruptcy, you might have a difficult time foreclosing. If you wanted to get them repaying and they're in a chapter 13 where they actually start paying again, they come up with a payment plan. That means that's awesome for you. They're already on a payment plan. You can actually go in, see what they're paying, see their pay history. So looking at those documents in Pacer can be really informative to what you're getting into with that asset. So this is the preliminary due diligence. That's all of it. Okay. Now, I felt super overwhelmed with that process at the beginning. I was obviously working full-time and being a teacher is very time-consuming and exhausting. Imagine being with a bunch of 5- and 6-year-olds for 8 hours a day with, 18 of them at your beck and call. So I'd come home and I was just exhausted from teaching all day. And I would have tapes waiting for me in my inbox and I would try to go through them and I just couldn't do it all. Like I was starting to feel so drained and I was not enjoying investing anymore. I was getting frustrated with my kids at school. I was drained and tired and overworked. And I didn't know what to do. I was about to kind of just say, is this even worth it? I was going to stop. Because I couldn't do it. And luckily, my wonderful husband and business partner, Dennis, was like, you're not quitting. This is ridiculous. We just need to figure out something to outsource this. We need to come up with a solution so that you're not doing all of the work. So I decided instead of me being the one doing the task I could most easily outsource, which to me is due diligence, I needed to find someone to do it for me. So I looked online trying to find someone who could do it for me if there was someone I could just simply send it to and outsource this, and there really wasn't. So I realized I was going to have to come up with my own system to train a virtual assistant. And that was a pretty time-consuming process. As you can see here, when I started in the note business, I was spending an equal amount of time, sorry guys, I was spending an equal amount of time doing finding deals, raising capital, and doing due diligence. And I was really not spending too much time on my workouts because I felt so overwhelmed with all the other stuff. I wasn't buying that many assets. So I really was spending way too much time on the computer researching all these properties. I should have been focusing more on finding more inventory, raising more capital to buy more deals. Now, I'm obviously keeping about the same amount of time on my sourcing deals and raising capital. Now I'm spending more time on my workouts because I do have obviously a larger portfolio that we're working on. And I barely spend any time on my due diligence in comparison. That's a minuscule part of my day-to-day functions. I've now come up with a system that allows me to focus on the important parts of my business rather than something like due diligence. So I systemize my business so it works without me. Okay, like I said, I couldn't do it all myself. So we came up with a system that allowed us to train someone else to do it for us. I outsourced the due diligence process, and outsourcing has been amazing. Now that I've done it with due diligence, I've done it with a ton of other stuff. All of my social media is outsourced. My website's outsourced. My accounting's outsourced. So I just love the outsourcing process. And once I realized that if I let go of the reins and I give them exactly what I want them to do, step by step, really detailed, they can do it. There are tons of people out there that are super capable and with training and with support can be so successful at the tasks that you need them to be. So I'm going to show you how I outsource the due diligence process, which is everything I walked you through earlier, because that was obviously a really condensed version for this presentation. It's obviously much more thorough. When I go through it normally on like virtual note buying for dummies, it normally takes us about an hour and a half to just go through one asset when I actually explain how to do it. So it's a really time-consuming process, especially if you're new or you've never done this before. You're not quite sure what to look for. You'll find new things that you don't know what they mean. Does that actually affect you? So there's a lot to know and to be prepared for. And that's what I've trained. Now I have 6 VAs to do this entire process for me. So the automating process, the outsourcing process, it first starts by creating your content. So you need to determine what you're outsourcing for. It's the preliminary due diligence process. So I created a training content content and I recorded step-by-step videos. So I used free video software, and it just takes pretty much a screen capture. So every time I was doing research on my computer, it was following me along, and I could give instructions verbally. So I was able to literally show them step by step what to do. How do I Google search? How do I link a property? How do I take a screenshot? How do I open a tape? I mean, it gets super, super detailed. I wanted to give them everything they would need to be successful. I created a lot of videos. It took me a very long time. This whole process of creating this program actually took me about 2.5 months from start to finish, because I had to constantly keep tweaking things. Once I started training people, they would say, well, I don't know what to do here. And I would realize I didn't create a video for that. So then I go back and create another video. So some of the free video software I used, there's a ton out there. You could literally just Google search any of them. But the one I like to use is Easy Video Suite. I think it's a really user-friendly process, and then it actually stores and hosts all of your videos online within Easy Video Suite. You do have to pay for this one, but I really enjoy it, and it's a pretty small fee. There are some free ones. Camtasia is another free one. It's a pretty cool one. It is really interactive, and you can add you can add different images within it, so you don't just have to take a screenshot. There's other things you can do to create videos with this one. And then there's another Snagit. I've used Snagit before I moved to Easy Video Suite. It was a really good first choice when I just wanted to start off on a small scale. And then once I realized, okay, I have to create a lot of these videos, I need to host them, things like that, I decided to upgrade. But Snagit was definitely what I started with and was great. So those are some of the free recording video softwares that you can find. You don't have to use those. If you know something else, you can totally use those too. So then I didn't want to just give them videos, because I don't blame them if they don't want to have to go back to the video and find the exact minute and second that I explained the part that they wanted to see. So I also created some visual guides. I wanted to give them something that they could read, and something that had pictures with further instructions on what to do if they don't want to have to reference the videos every time. So I actually created a step-by-step images of what we do. So I told them how to find. This is an example of how we find our comps. And this is actually from the guide that our VAs use. Okay, here's another example. This is how we find the taxes. It shows them exactly what websites we use, where they can go, all the different possibilities for what it might look like. Uh-oh. Okay. Sorry guys, my computer, I think it has too much open. So the next thing after we created that content is we have to find and hire our virtual assistant. You know what? It skipped some stuff. I think I clicked too many times. Let me go back. Sorry. Okay, we're moving on. So the next thing you're going to do is find and hire your virtual assistant. So what we like to do is use Upwork. You might have heard of Odesk or Elance. Those have now been merged into Upwork. I'd say it's the #1 platform for finding virtual assistants. It's been very good to me. I've used it for, we've actually hired an accountant that way, or a bookkeeper, not an accountant, but a bookkeeper through Upwork. We've hired blog writers, we've hired article writers, social media marketing people. I mean, you can find a broad range of skill level, of language level, and of experience. So you can pretty much find anything that you would ever imagine on here. And the first thing you're going to do is create a job post. You want to be super specific with the job post that you are creating, because the more specific you are, the more you'll find people that are actually qualified for your job to apply. If you leave it super broad, people think, oh yeah, okay, I'm good for that. And they're probably not. So the more specific you are, the better. Then you're going to actually look at the applications. You're going to get a ton. I think the last job application I posted, I had like 75 applicants in 24 hours. So you'll receive a lot of applicants, and you're going to have to kind of go through the best ones and even rate them. It says these are the most qualified based on what you said you needed. And I take a look at the ones they suggest are most qualified, and I determine which ones look good. So I review their qualifications and experience. The main thing that I'm looking for is their language level. I want to make sure that they are proficient in English, because that's how we're communicating. I need to know that they can read and understand, type, and listen fluently in our language. So that's probably my number one important factor. And then the next is going to be their experience. Have they done online research? Have they done real estate? If so, that's great. It makes them more qualified. If not, it's not the end of the world. Because I've created such an extensive training program with my videos that are step-by-step, as well as my guides, I could train anyone. So I'm really not worried about if they have experience. Obviously, the more the better, but it's not a qualification for me. So I'm looking mainly for language. I also want to know what price range that I want them to be in. I have like I said, 6 great virtual assistants, and the most I pay is $4.75 per hour. So the least I pay was $3.50, and I've given them raises since then because they're doing a great job. So I started off around $3.50, and now I'm at $4.75 for some of them. So you can get really qualified people with this training program once you outsource it and give them the support they need to be successful, and you can be paying someone $4.50 for something that takes you hours to do by yourself. So it's pretty cool. So I interview the best applicants, and I narrow it down to 3. Sometimes it might just be 2 that you really like that you're competing against, but I like to have 3 because it gives you more options. And then I actually interview them. I like to Skype them for the interview, or you can use Google Hangouts, which is another free screen sharing or video conferencing software. And I actually ask them questions about their experience. I'm really assessing their English proficiency. Are they able to understand me? Am I able to understand them? I ask them about their time availability, things like that. Anything that would be important for me to know if I hire them or not with the job. And then based on who I like the best, I actually start the contract with them, and we go on a trial basis. That's how I find my VAs. So after you find your VA, you're going to need to start training them, okay? That's the next step to automating. And I actually train them by giving them very detailed instructions. I don't like to just send emails with the instructions. I always like to provide written instructions and verbal instructions. This is probably the teacher in me, but I know that everyone learns in different ways, especially if you're not if English isn't your native language. So it's really important that you don't just give them one way. As many forms of instruction to support them as possible is better, especially visual. So I don't just like to write in emails because I don't think it's sufficient enough, especially for the process we're outsourcing. So I give them detailed instructions on what I want them to do. I give them like the website they need to train at, their login information, exactly what I want. And then I give them the training videos and documents that I created. And at first, I didn't really know how to deliver that. I didn't want to just send the videos to them. I didn't want them on YouTube because I didn't want people to see them. So I had to create a platform, like a website, to hold all of them. And at first, I used just a free website builder like Wix and Weebly are 2 examples. So you could use that, and you just drag and put your videos on there. And it worked great at first. And then as I started revising my videos and adding more, it just became a lot for my virtual assistants. And it took time to build the website and make sure it looked good and it was easy for them to use. Just creating the website alone, I think that took me about 3 weeks, even with drag and drop. So it took a lot of time. But if you are gonna do this yourself, you would have to create a training platform for where you want everything to be stored for your virtual assistants. The easier it is for them, the more successful they will be. We now store all of our videos and documents all on noteinvestingclub.com. So all of our virtual assistants are trained on this through that website. We give them links for all the download guides that would be useful for the specific video they're working on or the specific research they're working on. And we have over 16 videos now that give them step-by-step instructions. We even give them like help videos. So if there's problems that can typically occur, we show them exactly how to work through that. So that's where we store all of ours. And then the opportunities for practice. Once you train them, you don't just want to give them a tape and be like, okay, go for it. It's probably not going to be enough practice. Once again, this is probably the teacher in me, but you never just teach and then go send people off for it. Typically, there needs to be some time to practice, to revise, and then to try again. So we give them 3 test tapes, which are just example practice tapes that we've already researched. I already have the answers for them. I give it to them, and then once they go through the process of researching it, I have them send it back to me, and we compare our results. Since I already have the tape done, I actually can send it to them and say, please compare your results. This is all of my answers. Compare it to what you found is different, and then we talk about it. Sometimes I've Skyped with them to talk about it. Sometimes I just do it through email. This is an example of one test tape that we have. So it's a huge list. It has over 80 assets in it. And we actually ask them to filter it and to scrub it. And then when I'm done, I actually compare you can see my answers in the orange. Okay, so that's not all of the stuff that we provide. There's a ton more, but I didn't want to take too many pictures. And then we review the results and give feedback. And the feedback is probably the most important part. So I just most recently hired a new VA because our clients are increasing. I want to have as many virtual assistants to support our clients as possible. And this was one of my feedbacks in email form. So again, I'm using pictures, I'm using text, I use arrows, anything that will help them. I specifically mentioned where I noticed there was differences, and at the top it says, here's your completed tape for you to compare. That's my result, so he can take a look. But I try and give them as much feedback as possible. The more information that you can give them, especially about what they did incorrectly, the more successful they will be, okay? If you don't like what they do, give them feedback and tell them how you want them to do it. So pretty much everything else has been automated now, but that's the only portion that you definitely still have to do. You can't just plug and walk away. Every person is different. Everyone learns in different ways. Your VA may not have any problems. They could be awesome and you just found a super amazing VA, or you could have found a VA that needs more support. If that's the case, give them the support and get them where you need them to be. So that's how we train. And then after that, we get them working. They should be ready to go. A lot of people ask, how long does this process take? You can do it as quickly as your VA can work and as quickly as you respond. I've been very busy the past few weeks, so this new VA I'm training is waiting on me. I just haven't gotten back to him with feedback. But if I was faster and gave him feedback, he could have been done in a week, easy. I'm definitely the one holding him back right now. So it's totally up to you as to how quickly they get trained. I would say the average turnaround time, if you're both focused on it, would be a week to 2 weeks. And you could get them totally trained in this process and have them start scrubbing your assets for you. So why would you do this all yourself? Creating the videos, creating the documents, creating the website that you're going to host all this on, when you can join Note Investing Club. I already created it because I needed it for myself. I was going insane. I was overworked and I had to outsource this. So I created all of these videos that support and train. I've had now 7 VAs. One I had to leave. Unfortunately, he was great too. It's totally stunk that he had to leave. But I have now trained 7 virtual assistants with this, and all of them can do the complete process from start to finish if I need them to. So I know it works. I know several other clients have used this program and it works. So why would you take the time, the months it took me to create, when you could just use our website? So noteinvestingclub.com is where we host all of our videos. We show you exactly where and how to find, hire, and train your virtual assistant. We also give you the step-by-step videos and the step-by-step guides to show you exactly how to research the notes and the properties. And then we even give you our 3 practice test tapes so that you could just give the practice tape to your VA, and we already have a scrubbed tape for them to compare their results to. We even created videos that explain common problems. Our second test tape is a super tough one. It's like pretty much everything that you could find that's difficult in your research, we included in that tape. We wanted to make it difficult so that we could train our virtual assistants to be able to handle anything. And I knew videos to support that would be helpful because it is tricky. So we actually even have videos just for one specific tape to help explain what problems could come up. So, I mean, we really have thought through this process and given you everything to make training as successful as possible. Maybe you're thinking, I'm not ready for this. I don't want a virtual assistant. I don't even know how to do due diligence. I'm overwhelmed. If you're not ready for it, that's fine. Or maybe you just don't even want a virtual assistant. I know there's some investors that don't want a virtual assistant. They would rather just outsource it completely. They don't want to have to manage someone. They don't want to have to train someone. And if that's the case, we do have a solution. So here are two companies. We've talked a lot about Note Investing Club, which is where you can outsource and hire and train your own VA. Now, the other website, TapeTech, is if you don't want to have your own virtual assistant. We give you the tools to just upload your tape, tell us what you want researched, you pay per asset, and then we return it to you in 24 to 72 hours. You don't have to pay for a membership. You don't have your own VA. You pretty much pay as you go. So every time you get a tape, you'd submit it to TapeTech and we return it to you completely researched. Okay, so this is pretty much for like the hands-off investor. They don't want to have their own virtual assistant. Here's a video explainer that tells you exactly what we do with TapeTech and the results that you'll see. I'm really hoping my computer's been slow today. Aww. It worked when I tested it earlier. Let's see. I'm going to exit out and just play it for you here, guys. Ugh. Technology.
Gotta love it.
I know. See how it plays when it's not ridiculous. Okay. I'll play it for me for
the past. We know it's worked plenty of times in the past, so.
I know. Sorry. Oh, great. Now it's frozen. All right. Well, once I get this going, okay. Oh, we get the rolling ball of death. So hopefully this will come back to us in a second. If not, I'll have to try the backup plan.
That's fine. Hey, so if somebody's got a 15-year-old, I mean, we can all agree 15-year-olds are usually pretty computer savvy. But let's be honest here. If you're hiring your son or somebody else to do it, that's great. But then you're at their beck and call around school, extracurricular activities. If they get upset and whine, I'm not saying they're not mature kids, but I get $3.50 to $4 an hour. Come on, you can't get your kids to do the work for that these days, right, Liz?
Totally. No, I don't know any high schooler that would take $4 an hour. They can't even go to the movie. I mean, like that's ridiculous.
And work at your beck and call versus their schedule, right?
Yeah, and hopefully I would hope you'd want your kids focusing on their schoolwork or maybe even have extracurriculars. Like they're not, when you get a tape, there's no control as to when you get it. You're gonna get a tape. The other day I got 3 in one day. Okay, that's a lot of inventory for me to go through all at once. And obviously, the sooner you get your bids in, the better. So if your child or whoever you have around the house that you would be relying on isn't available, you're kind of SOL. So I like the VAs because they know when I hire them, I explain, I'm going to get things randomly. I need you to be available at any time. It might be the weekend. Give me a heads up if you have something big like a wedding or you're out of town or something like that you're unavailable. But other than that, pretty much if I'm hiring you for this job, I expect that you'll be able to take it on when I send it to you. So, they're ready for it. That's their job. I'm paying them to do that. $4 an hour. So here it's working now. Let's play.
Liz, there's no audio playing. They can't hear any sound.
Oh my Lord, have mercy on my soul.
All right.
All right, we'll move on. I'm going to provide you with this slide so you guys can see the link or
let's have you upload your slides in the Basecamp so they can download that and knock it all out too, because it was kind of flipping back and forth. But you had such great content at first, if you don't mind. Is that cool?
Yes, and I'm sorry because I spent so long on this too. I don't know why it's not working. We'll move on to I'll start from here. Okay, so this is what I was just telling you about that you couldn't hear. Everything it was telling you is what we search. So when you upload your tape to TapeTech.com, you're going to see the population size. Well, that helps you kind of narrow down, okay, if it only has 500 people in the town, I'm probably not going to want to buy a property there. It lets you know, kind of narrow down by that. We give you the property condition with the Google image. We actually put the picture into the spreadsheet or the tape so that you can see what the property looks like right away. We also link the Google Street View so that if you wanted to take a look around the neighborhood, you don't even have to research it yourself. You just click. We give you a property value, which is the current market value, remember, as is. And we also give you 3 comparable properties linked into the spreadsheet with their sales price. So if it's sold for $56,000, it'll say that, and then it'll have a link to the actual comp. So you can take a look at what we thought was comparable. We give you the crime rate. We give you bankruptcy status. We also give you the property info, which is the bed, bath, square feet, building type, and building year. Taxes, and that's for the unpaid taxes. We give you liens judgments, if there's any in public records. The average rent in that area for the size of the home. And then any additional notes. So like maybe we notice it's next to a school or across the street from a school. We might put that into the notes. How we come up with our value. If we said it's a really rural area, there wasn't many comps, we'd put that in the notes. If we noticed that the neighborhood had a lot of boarded up homes, it didn't look too nice, we would, again, put it in the notes. So the notes can be super helpful for you understanding what we found in our research. And please remember that this is always only provided if it's available and online, because many counties don't have their public records or their taxes or their information online. So as long as it's available, we can find it. If it's not, we try our best to give you everything we can find for free that is available, but it's not always guaranteed. So that is a disclaimer there. And then you pretty much just choose if you want it to be a rush tape, 24-hour return, it's $7 per asset. And if you don't want the rush, you're willing to wait a few days, 2 to 3 days, it's $5 per asset. Okay. So this is everything we give you. It's pay per asset per each time you want your tape scrub. So you can come as many times as you want. There's no requirements. And then we do the research for you and return it to you in the timeline you require. Okay. Woo! It went way too quick. Not done yet. Okay. It just wants me to be finished. I'm not ready yet. PowerPoint. Here we go. Now, that was TapeTech. This is for Note Investing Club. We do have a membership for Note Investing Club, and we have 2 choices. We either have an annual membership, which is going to be $49.95. It's a pay per month, and there's a 1-year requirement to become a member with the pay per month. Or we have a lifetime membership. You only pay $500 one time upfront, and you are a member for life. You will have access forever. And we are constantly adding more. Just the last time I spoke for the virtual note buying for dummies, I added 3 more videos and updated 2 or older ones because the websites had kind of changed. So I'm always making sure it's up to date. So you definitely, versus each other, the annual membership, if you're only a member for a year and you lose your VA, you'll probably have to rejoin in order to train them again. Or if I give more videos and update the content after you're not a member anymore, you don't have access to that. So the lifetime membership does have its benefits because you won't ever have to worry about checking back for the updated content because you'll always have access to it even a few years from now. Either one is totally whatever works for you. I know sometimes the $500 up front can be tough when you're first starting out. I know 4 years ago, if you told me $500, I might have really wanted it but couldn't afford it. So whatever one works for you. All I know is our clients are super happy with the program. We've had a lot of people tell us that they were able to successfully hire and train their own virtual assistants with it. And if you find that you're having difficulty with something, or maybe your VA doesn't understand a video, let me know. And I'm happy to make sure that we're giving videos that are applicable for the content that we're trying to train people on. So I can always update that for you if you find there's something missing. And since I'm uploading these slides, you can actually click on these links. Once I upload the slides, it'll take you directly to the member login page. Or if you prefer just to go to the website yourself, I did give you the link down there so that you can type it into your browser. But I'm going to offer these because these are the special discounted prices. If you go to the website right now, it's $74.95 per month for a year, and it's $99.95 if you do it for less than that. So, and we don't even have the lifetime option on the website. So if you do want to join and take advantage of these prices, it's going to end Wednesday, October 26th at midnight. And I'm kind of extending this a while. Normally, I only do it for 3 or 4 days, but I know you do the playbacks, Scott. So I wanted to give people that might have missed an opportunity to take advantage.
Appreciate that. Yep, guys. One thing Liz didn't tell you is you've got. Well, not only do we send you most of the tapes initially to knock out, even though we've got a staff to do it, you've also doing it for several hedge funds. You're also doing it for Chase and Robbie on their bigger tapes and stuff like that. So you got literally Wall Street hedge funds that are sending their tapes to Liz's staff to knock due diligence out. Should tell you a little something about the quality of what they do. I mean, her videos are tremendous. Definitely. I mean, you got Bill on here already bragging on you, saying that he's booking August here. He's not being paid to do it. He goes, Liz's site provides great value. She doesn't pay me anything. Just a satisfied customer. Lynn does ask the question here, Liz, what kind of tape turn time do you expect from your personal VAs, or should you expect?
I tell them the same timeline that I would require for our clients. So if it's something I need rushed, I would hope that they can get it in 24 hours. That's my ultimate goal. So I'd be upfront about telling them, I'm hoping for a 24-hour timeline. And anytime you send that to your VA, remember, be detailed in your instructions. So if you need this in 24 hours, tell them that. If it's a larger tape, if it's going to be 60, 70 assets, let's be realistic. One person can't do 60, 70 assets in 24 hours. So just be understanding of that, and know that it's going to take some more time if it's a larger tape. But if it's anything where you're filtering it to meet your needs, like only in a few states, it's just maybe 10 assets or less, they should definitely be able to get that to you in 24 hours.
What other questions do you guys and gals have for Liz Brimmer-Smith on the due diligence and then helping you automate it? There's about a 15-second delay between things here. Liz, what would you say is probably, because people get, what we don't want people to do, and I think you'll agree to this, is they get a tape and send you the whole tape. You want them, why don't we go through, since we've got a few minutes still left here, why don't you go through like the 3 biggest things or 4 biggest things that they need to filter immediately to send you a carved down tape a little bit. How's that sound?
Yes, definitely, because we do charge per asset. So if you send us a tape that has 30 assets in it, we're going to charge you for the 30 assets. So if you don't need half of them because they're not in states that you don't like, filter those. So the 3 best filter criteria we like to use are obviously states, determine what states you want to purchase in, and then value and occupancy. Now, sometimes the sellers will provide you with a BPO or their valuation. I'm not saying it's accurate. Please don't trust that value. But more or less, it's going to tell you what the seller's expecting their price off of. And if you don't buy assets above 100,000 and there's 5 assets on the tape that are worth 200 and 300,000, get rid of those because you're not going to bid on them. They're out of your price range. Or if you don't like assets below $20,000, maybe there's 5 assets that are for 14K, 15K, 10K, get rid of them. Okay. So those are things you can filter out yourself. States, like I mentioned, is super important. Only find the states that you want and send those to us. And then the last one's occupancy. And now that's not always provided, but if it is, and you're only looking for vacant, you're only looking for occupied, you can kind of filter out based on that as well. So the more information that they give you up front, the easier you can narrow it down to what you want. But if they only give you the states, just filter by state. That's the best one you can do. And we can find everything else for you, like population size, condition, crime, because those are the other things that for me as an investor, it kind of helped me narrow down. Like, I don't want super high crime rate. So if I see that, I kind of get rid of it. If it's a super crappy house, I get rid of it. But
especially if it's like a mobile home and you don't want mobile homes.
Yes, totally.
The property type is another thing to filter through that you often will see a lot of.
Yes. Thank you.
You want to show them, you have a sample tape and kind of what you send out to people would probably be a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. So I actually, our VAs are scrubbing over 50 assets this week. Let's see, sample tape. Sometimes it's in my history. I'll get to a sample tape for you guys. So our VAs right now are scrubbing over here we go. Okay, so this is an example tape. This was a tape that we used to train our VAs on. And you can see this was me giving feedback on them, but I give them the CMV, the property type, we give them square feet, building, year built, bed bath. We actually give them all of the comments, which is like the notes that I mentioned. We give them the comps. Okay, I'll show you another tape. I'm going to show you one of yours, Scott, that we did a long time ago.
That's fine.
Okay, so we give you the county, the population, the condition, our value. You can see here if it's a lot, we can't provide that information. So even though it's blank, it's because it's supposed to be blank. We tell you the property type. We give you the BK information, liens and judgments and taxes. Okay, notes and comps. So there's another example tape for you guys. We can do. Here's another one.
Now, let's make one important caveat here. You're still pulling online values. You're not calling physical realtors to do drive-bys. You're not physically calling